Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 with the Road to 56 mod. And of course, we're playing as Germany. So, trying to figure all this out. For some reason, we haven't gotten the Hungarians in yet. Or maybe it's a little bit more that we got these guys in earlier. I was suggested on sending volunteers for Japan, but I tried to send an attaches to Japan for their war to do that, but they wouldn't allow me. And for a while we did send attaches to China. But it was putting a little too much pressure on us. You can see here that Japan is finally beating back the Chinese that rushed into there. Okay, blitzkrieg tactics, very good. Okay, alliance with Italy we already have. Prepare to invade Poland. Reassert eastern claims. Fate of Yugoslavia. There's the second Vienna Awards. We already sort of bypassed the first. I guess we sort of have with taking out Czechoslovakia and such. $70 days. Foreign volunteers. General Planost. These are mostly for once you control these territories, I think. So obviously we're not doing them yet. Demand Slovenia. No, I don't want to do that so much, at least not at this moment. Because I don't know that we want to trigger too much of a war just yet. Prepare to invade. Okay, so we need to do prepare to invade before we get Sturmplunk tactics. Okay, now this is another thing that, again, my understanding of history, where they have Eastern claims is probably where we're going to go, but Germany was not prepared to invade Poland. The army, it was a mad scramble when Hitler sort of says, hey, yeah, we're invading Poland next week. You ready? The army's going, and it was almost like that. It was less than a month's time. I know this says 14 days, but it was a mad scramble of what can we get to the front line, you know, to the border with Poland before the war starts in a number of days. And I mean, it's literally almost that kind of thing. I think it was getting some of these impressions from reading Hans von Luck's, Panzer Commander, or whatever his book is. and stuff, some of the mad scramble that they were doing to just get forces, get ready, and how unprepared the army was to actually invade Poland. And it was very much a surprise to the army. And it was literally, forces in this sort of part of the Germany, because forces over here couldn't get across Germany quick enough to do that. Yeah, I think we'll do this. World tension increases, but just a tiny amount. 35 days. Get us this sliver of land. Okay, well, we built a bunch more of these fuel reserves. This is going to be an interesting test for me, at least, because this is not just the first time playing with this mod, but the first time playing as Germany with the new oil use. I've only played as part with Britain with it, which does change the game, but more so with Germany it will be. Because Britain always had, hey, need more oil? Just trade with the Americans and you get more oil. So I definitely used more building resources to either not build civil factories that would then build more military and naval dockyards, military factories and naval dockyards, or not building these things. So now I did build synthetic refineries before as Germany, and we're building one now, and have been building some others. So we're going to see how all that goes, but I definitely feel I need to continue building that. So it changes the dynamics of what is going on considerably. So we'll get those into production. Yeah, that's part of it. Guys, right. Can I get some Danzig for some greatness? Yeah, well, notice Danzig is in this mod its own state here, so we're going to see how that works out. Danzig did not have its own military force, though. Danzig was basically run and controlled by a pro-German local government. There were Polish forces sort of in occupation of Danzig. So we're going to send you on a train ride over to here. Might as well send you on the train. How are we doing for... Got some more of these Jaeger divisions coming. How does our backstock of things like motorized? Remember, we were in the multiple thousands, but expanding that. Okay, I think we can do... Okay, research. Hmm, 1939 will allow me to do this because I want to get these into production. Yeah. Yeah, the Polish army, Poland realized its dangers. Obviously, has what call it the Battle of Warsaw, where it defeats the Red Cavalry of the Soviet Union and beats them back, and so it's definitely a country. Borders are created by warfare. A little bit by the Treaty of Versailles too, but not entirely. I don't know if the Polish army actually engages the German army at the end of World War I. that stuff. But I do believe that there was some fights with the Freikorps going on. So they realize the danger they're in. Now, they realize it so much that they screw themselves, and they realize it, but they want to get this little bit of Czechoslovakia. I recently found a few new photos, new to me, of Polish occupying Zaułist. I'm sure I'm butchering that. And so that they supported Germany's takeover to get this damn little bit of territory when they could have stood with the Czechs. And yeah, I understand the majority of the population at the time was Polish speaking and not Czechoslovakian speaking, but still, Poland sells out its future over this little bit of land instead of trying to keep Czechoslovakia strong. Excuse me. So Poland makes some mistakes there, but they understand and they're trying to modernize. Oh, I think it's the 7TP. I know there's a 7 and a T and a P in it. Excuse me. The main Polish tank, based off a Carden-Lloyd suspension system for its drive and everything. It's actually a pretty good little tank. It's not it's nothing like a Panzer III, and it's not quite as good as even a 35T from Czechoslovakia. But it has a 37 millimeter gun. It's reasonably functional. It reasonably works well, and I would say on the whole, it is better than the Panzer I and the Panzer II. So it's a good little tank. They're TK tankette thing, which most of them just have machine guns on them, basically, without a turret. Those are just tankettes. They're not that great, but they work okay. What is Aries saying here? Monarch. Do the Molotov ribbon packet gives a great reduction in medium tank research. Okay, well, good. Ready to try to make themselves look like liberators, but one Polish man saw the defeated German would face. Yes, the 7TP. Thanks, Arna. So yeah, and so they realize what's going on. They copy the Browning. I keep getting these two confused. I think it was the BAR they licensed from FN and Browning, but that takes a long time and it's problematic and it's what's going on. But they get licensed production and they just says F it and produce a copy unlicensed of the Browning 1917 machine gun. And so they're making modern machine guns in the BAR in the 1917. They have what is still relatively modern Mauser rifles for the time. So they're really trying to have a modern army, but even just facing Germany, it's just an impossible task. They just don't have the industrialization to do it, and they just can't. And a lot of their industry is in former German territory, and so they're in a hopeless case, especially once you throw in the Soviet Union. It's hopeless. Thanks, Ari. Oh, TKS, that's right. Thanks, Arno. Guys, you guys are great for adding extra links that I know will be showing up in the YouTube video that if they want to follow those. I know you sort of got to type, but do check them out. And so they're not bad at what they're doing, but they just can't quite come to Germany's level. And so even if they had better mobilized, they're not going to survive. It's just one of those things. No matter what they're going to do, it just isn't going to be enough. Okay. How are we doing for rubber? Okay, we're down to... Okay, so what we're going to do here is build another synthetic rubber. Or actually, let's build two. Since we're building one, we'll build two. Make sure that we have rubber that we want to use. And now we've used up our current minimum. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, of course, if you had moved on Germany while they only had their 100,000 man army and their, 2 million SA men, the SA, not so great, but not terrible either at home defense at the time. More trained up than most people would think. You could, of course, crush Germany. That wouldn't have been hard. Even the Polish army alone could have crushed Germany under that state. Well, the SA would make it a bit tough, but this normal standing army easily crushed that. If you add in the Belgians, the French, and the Czechoslovaks, no problem in crushing the German army and the SA. That's, up until 1934, 1935, somewhere like that. Starting in 36, starts to become a problem. That's, again, 36 is, they picked such the key year to look at the situation for this war is correct. But you also have to remember, with the alliance system, Romania wants to be an ally of France. France knows it can't protect, and they're mainly initially, when they were initially asking to be an ally of France, around 36, Czechoslovakia is fully intact, and so is Austria and Austria, Hungary, and Italy are all in a three power pact defending against Germany. The three power pact was defending against Germany, pushed by Italy, but the other two members were Austria, which was the buffer state, and Hungary. And Romania so at that point, in 1936, no one's really thinking that Germany, not that Germany couldn't someday threaten it, but no one's thinking then of Romania being threatened by Germany. They're thinking Romania threatened by the Soviet Union, and France, after winning but being completely exhausted and nearly destroyed by World War I, knows that it doesn't have the political will to come and support Romania against the Soviet Union. Or even, they were also sort of worried at the time a little bit about Hungary wanting to get back some of its lost territory from after the Hungarian part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, getting back some of its territory, and worried about Bulgaria maybe wanting to get back these pieces of territory down here. So they're worried about some of this stuff going on. But if you sort of kind of looked at a Czechoslovak, Poland, Romanian pact with a generally that France is going to come in and make it a two-front war, that could be a reasonable defensive block. You have defense in depth, because remember, this part of Czechoslovakia and Poland are all connected here to Romania. So, yeah, Czechoslovakia becomes undefendable once Austria becomes part of Germany, because combination of, they didn't really have forts initially along this part of the border here. And this is, obviously, as you can see, an invasion path. That's why Austria ends up with it instead of Prussia. If you look at the last Austro-Prussian War of, what is it, 1777 or so, also known as the Potato War, if you know anything about the Potato War. And that was the last war of Frederick the Great, basically defeat for Frederick the Great. You can see why people down here control up into the Bohemia at the time. Very much so. That becomes untenable for defense, but still, if you have a vibrant Czechoslovak army, that army can retreat into the Slovakian part, as well as the idea of, while this is sort of getting crushed down here, you can have a Polish offensive moving against East Prussia and whatnot. And if you had a lot of, which fairly large, Romanian army to move up in support of these, you have all this back here of food, from Germany at least, protected supply lines that you could be moving in, Western-made supplies, whether they're rifles, aircraft, or food, or whatever it might be, in through here, that you could easily have these three countries. Now, at some point, Germany gets powerful enough that overwhelms all of them, but until that happens, this can be an effective. Okay, see ya, Frisano. Hello, Kai Golan. Hopefully I'm getting that right. So, Poland, in that sense, if it had alliances, but Poland's policies had conflicts with Lithuania, though those were minor, significantly with Czechoslovakia, because they wanted these two provinces here. And we're a little bit worried about these sort of, what do they call them? Carpathio-Ukraine. They were worried that, because there's a Ukrainian population down here, they were worried about, an irredentism of these people wanting to come and form their own country, as it were. So they had various worries that were keeping that from happening. Okay, reassert Eastern claims. Let's see what that does here under this. Okay, yes. They fold. Excellent. So now we have that. Oh, let's come do this first. National focus. Now, you want this, but prepare for war, which we have to do before Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which, again, I don't quite. Build up the Panzer Army. Okay, we're just in October. So I'm thinking of a 1940 start to everything. So we're going to do build up the Panzer Army. And which we got, since we got Memel, we got, 5 more naval yards. Very good. Well, let's create another mine layer. 2 submarine. We're going to pursue that policy there. Research slot. Okay. Which will allow greater excavation. Interesting question, Ari. Why don't I ever go alt history? Well, I would say I almost always go alt history. Because I'm thinking about starting the war in 1940 instead of starting the war in 1938. Or 1939. I played Kaiserreich. That's alt history, Ari. Played a bunch of Kaiserreich. But I know what you're meaning, and I'm being a little facetious, I guess would be the term. Trying to figure out how to express it, because either you haven't heard me express it, though I think I've talked about it a lot, or you don't quite understand what I'm trying to say. And I'm just thinking here. Maybe I'm tired of not thinking well, but I want to play a realistic game, okay? So yeah, I guess, we could do something different. I could play as Britain and decide to invade the USA. But maybe if I thought this game was accurate enough to simulate that war, it might be interesting. But since the AI really sucks, I don't know that I would get a real example of what a British Empire versus the United States be, what the war would be like in reality. Okay. I haven't actually fully read everything you said, but I've skimmed your point. Let's take your example of reforming the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And okay, you say they try to restore the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Seems always reject and expire, probably because they're unlike or on par with the Germans in a better way. Yes, I think, yeah, IKB just said it. Gamer likes alt history to be feasible in a given situation at the start date. Yeah. So again, if you're doing Kaiserreich, you're creating the hypothesis, and you're building the world of Kaiserreich that is wacky as it is. It sort of kind of holds together. Okay, let's and this is let's war game out. What happens? Austro-Hungary, trying to rebuild Austro-Hungary. Let's say they get Otto von Habsburg, who's living in Paris, to smuggle back into Budapest. I think he would have accepted the throne. I think Horthy would have accepted him if he didn't think that the day that he appears publicly in Budapest as the ruler, and not just as a tourist. Who, I'm just here. I'm just, if he's spotted on the streets of Budapest, which I've actually been to Budapest, just to say, it's rare for an American. I know many of you Europeans, it's not a big deal going to Budapest, but I've been there. But if he was just spotted, walking out of a hotel in Budapest, he goes, "I'm just visiting my ancestral homeland. I'm going to be leaving in a week." Okay, that's different. But if he says, "I'm now the king of Hungary," within 24 hours of him saying that he's the king of Hungary, Romania, Yugoslavia, and Czechoslovakia, which all had an alliance also with Turkey a bit, are going to declare war on Hungary, most likely. So on that day that Otto von Habsburg declares himself king of Hungary, war with, for sure, with Czechoslovakia, Romania, and Yugoslavia is going to happen for sure. Now, I don't know when they declare war if the second day there's going to be Romanian divisions marching across the Hungarian border, but they're going to then be screaming to the League of Nations, screaming, we need support, we need to do this stuff, it's going to cause chaos. Just the mere fact that Romania and this I'm taking this happening after 1936, because that's when the start date. Now, if we want to jump back and you want to create the world of, say, 1920, what is going on in 1920? You know, massive parts of this territory are actively occupied by France. You know, the Russian Civil War going on, you know, all kinds of stuff else going on in the world. Some of these countries, they're definitely not, the borders are formalized as they are. If we're creating that world, that's a different world. But we're creating 1936 here. So if somebody wants to create a mod of 1920 and play that out, yeah, and if it's done well, I'd love to play that, and we could, I don't know, play, you know, the White Russians, you know, as they fight the Bolsheviks, or we could play German Civil War between the various factions in Germany, you know, the communists, the Freikorps, the German army, and we could pick a faction and try to, whether try to restore the Kaiser or just keep the communists out, or I don't know, because now 1920 there might technically be a DAP, but there's no NSDAP, and those are, nobody's heard of them in some beer Keller in, yes, I did use the right word there, in Munich, that no one's heard of. So the SA and Nazis are nothing in 1920. 1924, 1923, yeah, that's a different matter, and that's still just only happening down here. So if you want to play that would be a different thing. Okay, so if we're looking at that, okay, now let's just presume there is no immediate jump on them by Romania, Yugoslavia, and Czechoslovakia. Okay, let's just say there isn't. And whether it's Admiral Haughey in charge or Otto in charge of Hungary, either way. Now, what's going to need to have happened? One, Hungary is going to have to reject what they have been negotiating. They don't sign it until it's January or February, I forget, it's January or February 1936, if they formed the Three Powers Pact with Italy. So they asked to reject that and reject any alliance with Austria. Now maybe not alliance with Austria, but Italy is not going to support, because Italy does not want to lose Trieste, which is part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire in the past, and also wants to keep the Tyrol region here, which they gained from World War I. So they're going to be hostile to it. So there's going to be no alliance with Italy, because Italy will also want to keep some of these other places and would fear this. But let's just say, yeah, a 1920 start date, that would be a completely different thing. And so, okay, let's just say Otto comes into power, and he is charismatic enough. I never met the guy. I don't know if I've ever even seen an interview with the guy. The most I've done is been involved with literally written correspondence with Otto. So, I mean, that's how close, actually, now this was back in the very early 1990s, but I was actually dealing with correspondence sort of through an organization type thing with Otto von Habsburg. So I can't say I know the guy because I've never even met the guy, but I have corresponded, and I didn't end up with any of his letters. But so I can't prove it to you, but you can take my word for it if you wish. So I know a little bit about his viewpoint and his ideology, just a little bit. He was very, very pro-EU. He definitely followed in his Habsburg ancestry of wanting to make a European superstate. Liberal guy. Very, very much seems to be a liberal guy from what I see. Not a leftist necessarily, but a liberal guy, which is somewhat left, but not super left. Okay, let's just say he gets into power here, and his magic. He works his magic, and Austria accepts some sort of political union again that recreates Austro-Hungary, in that there's dual capitals, but it's more than just, hey, we're allied. We're sort of like in the same alliance. So they're part of they have the same leaders, they have the same basic army, even though there may be a Hungarian faction of it and an Austrian faction of it. Okay, so once that happens, and we could even, let's say it happens late 1936. Who or what is the number one enemy of the Austro-Hungarian Empire? Adolf Hitler and Germany. Hitler hates the Habsburgs with a burning, burning passion. I don't know whether he hates them more than he hates the communists. I'm not sure. Now, he hates the Jews more than he hates the Habsburgs, but he may or may not hate the communists more than he hates the Habsburgs. So your main enemy of Austro-Hungary is not National Socialist Germany. Hitler will do anything he possibly can to take over Austria. So all of Hitler's focus will be to deal with Austro-Hungary. And so once you get these, let's say it happens in 36. Well, Hitler isn't ready for war in 36 with Austro-Hungary. He is not. The Austrian army is still fairly weak, but so is the German army in 1936. The SA, fairly strong. The SA has been banned in Austria, but is still existing in Austria. It's a very hardcore organization. The SS is operating, though all of the photos that I've seen of the SS, the Austrian SS, were taken inside of Germany at the time. They had some camps for Austrian SS men. They were basically a hardcore terrorist type organization to be a fifth column in Austria, which ends up not being needed, but that's what they're being trained to do. Remember that a Nazi, I think SA man, kills the leader of, assassinates with a pistol the leader of Austria. So they've already, Dollfuss, right? Dollfuss? Or is that the later one? Sorry, the Fatherland Front. Because the German or the Austrian main ruling party is a fascist party, the Fatherland Front. They've assassinated them. That gets the Nazi party banned. Hitler did not want him assassinated. It was not on orders from Hitler. It was a hothead Nazi doing it, thinking he was doing what Hitler wanted, but it truly was not what Hitler wants. So you're facing a Austro-Hungary versus Germany war by about 1938, and in a war that maybe Italy's going to come in at this point, but Italy is worried about German expansion onto its borders, but is probably more worried about Austro-Hungarian expansion on its borders, because Italy is eyeing up Yugoslavia. Everybody is, of course, but they're eyeing up Yugoslavia. Yugoslavian fascists want to align with the Italians, but Mussolini doesn't really want that to happen. So does the Greek fascists. They want to align with Mussolini's Italy, but Mussolini wants Greece, so it doesn't quite work out. But Mussolini does not want Austria. He wants Austria to be a buffer state. So you can see what I'm talking about here. Yes. Otto died past. Yes. Well, I think Franz Josef, the last Austro-Hungarian emperor to really properly rule, if I'm remembering the names right, sorry, I'm getting some of this wrong, was more or less an absolutist monarch. Now, they did have, you know, the Hungarians and the Austrians sort of sharing out rule, but it was more or less an absolutist monarch, I think, as opposed to a constitutional. I think there were more limits on the German Kaiser or the Prussian Kaiser in Germany up here, I think, but I'm not sure. Sorry, I don't know the details of the monarchies in them. And so this is why, now maybe it's just because I'm overburdened with knowledge, that anything, oh, well, let's come over to here. And let's, because I don't know that I've looked at this, because strengthen the monarchies, elect a king. Okay. Invite Habsburg prince. Take Austria by force, demand a referendum. Restoration of Austria-Hungary. Okay, yeah. This is... So to me, this is just... You know, it's like saying, oh, yeah, hey, Stalin decides that monarchies are really good and the Romanovs are the rightful monarchy, so I'm going to bow out gracefully so long as we restore the Romanov monarchy to Russia after 1936. Okay, that is about, to me, as plausible as the restoration of Austria-Hungary at this time. And so I get that there's a lot of sort of Austro-Hungarian fans. I don't know why. I also get that there's a lot of Byzantine fans, Byzantium fans that are in Paradox gaming circles. Byzantium is sort of cool. I get that a little bit more. That they want to somehow restore the Byzantine. Is there a Byzantine restoration path for expand royal powers? Okay. I don't know. Man, Cyprus, not really a Byzantine option, but so I see it as being entirely unrealistic, as about as unrealistic as Mussolini going, no, let's just give up Africa. It's not worth our time. And yeah, Rhodes, no, that should really be Greece's. Yeah, no problem. Let's hey, Trieste, yeah, let's make it part of Yugoslavia. We don't really need it. It seems so, and I'm sorry if I'm going on harping on this, but it seems just a complete and utter fantasy for me. So, well, let's get back to the game. But okay, German Reich, yeah, it's just the notification of this. Well, hopefully we have enough rubber and such for the moment, though we probably will need to expand that. And how are we doing? Okay, we build up some more of that. I think we could use more trucks. what does our I'm often not paying. Okay, let's see. Alpenjäger from them, from Austria, so 6 and an engineer versus Gebirgsjäger. Okay, well, probably continue the Alpenjäger version just because it starts with a engineering group. And I guess we can also give it okay. I don't know. Do we want to give it anti-tank? Okay, mountain movement base, attack 35, defense 120. Let's see, does that show us what it'll change to? Not that much, so I guess we are. Okay, so that we will have a better mountain division. And can we do these in yes, good. Okay, so now we now have better mountain divisions. Yeah, alien space bats. And that, I almost sort of went there in some of my analogy of, you know, what if UFOs were landing? Henry, what is it, Turtle Love, those alt histories based on, you know, space aliens showing up for World War II, and Hitler, Stalin, and FDR or whatever are fighting jointly against the alien invasions. I've never read any of the stuff, but the book covers look cool. And so it's obviously not quite as fantasy as that, but is starting to be that level, in my opinion. And Honduras focus tree, at least they can go. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure we can get more ridiculous than not. And there are definite critical points in history, because I could look at Germany and say, and I could maybe examine it a little bit more, but I could see, because it's sort of 31, 32. I could see a communist revolution happening there instead of the National Socialist one, because I could see the people voting for communists in the government in Germany. I could see the very small army try to put that down, try to do a coup against that. Because I could see Hindenburg doing that. And then I could see the some of the German peoples, the German centrists, shall we say, who are okay with the idea that there's Hindenburg, and because even the German centrists, the German character likes public order. That's one thing you got to understand. German, correct me if you think I'm wrong, either now or later in YouTube, but the German culture likes public order. They don't like public chaos. They don't like the wild, crazy, and I don't necessarily mean riots, but I mean just wild, crazy demonstrations are different than riots, but wild, crazy times of the Weimar Republic. Yeah, there's a certain segment of the population that do like that, but German cultural does not like the uncertainty of that. They want certainty. And so the German center, sort of the social democrats, shall we say, and I have looked at this some, but it's been years, are sort of okay with the Hindenburg and sort of the army authoritarians being there, but so long as they're not oppressive and so long as they're allowing a reasonable level of democratic expression, it's okay that the army is a conservative institution. It's okay that President Hindenburg is winning elections and being the president of Germany, even though he's, making all kinds of symbolic statements, like not taking the seat in at least one or more reviews or something, or things that would be for the leader of Germany, but standing next to it to sort of symbolize, hey, this really belongs to the Kaiser. I'm just sort of caretaking for the Kaiser who will be back someday. And so Hindenburg is sort of making these sort of signals while allowing, especially during the 1920s, allowing for the sort of the center more or less to be in charge in Germany. And so there's sort of a center-right coalition, if you will, and that's maybe a little overstating it, but they're sort of okay with that. But if you had a situation where you just had just enough people to push the communists into the greatest position in the Reichstag, and if they did a coalition with the Social Democrat types, sort of the socialists, they do a sort of a coalition government that isn't a dictatorship. But then the army does a coup against that, because the army can't stomach that, because they're afraid of a communist revolution. Not just that communists hold office, but they're afraid of a communist revolution, which I do think that would have been coming, like we were seeing down in Spain. That I could see that there would then be a reaction to it that would be communists, anarchists, social democrats, other sort of socialist type parties, all going, hell no. We might not like their policies, but we elected them, and so long as we believed that they were going to hold another free and fair election to maybe throw them out of office if we don't like them, and if they were then to step down, we were okay with having the communists. But now you've just done a coup there, so I could see that sort of 1931, because there's multiple elections all going on, and sort of chaotic in Germany. I could see the communists getting power, and there could be a communist revolution, and then at that point, I could see communist Germany. Or I can see communist Germany in 1919, 1920, 1921 sort of happening. I could see in those sort of two time periods. So you have these focal points, these decision points in history that things can go either way. And they really sort of can go either way. We can sort of see this in France. France is teetering back and forth. Well, through the 20s and the 30s, but it's teetering back and forth leading up to the war with Germany. And so that can go either way. And so I'm good with throwing in a focus tree of communist takeover France, because I could see that as a viable possibility. Not a strong likelihood, but a viable possibility. So that works for me. But it doesn't work. Austro-Hungarian restoration is, why don't we have a focus tree to restore the Merovingian Empire? Special points without Googling if anybody can tell me who or what the Merovingian Empire was. But hey, let's see. Why don't we have focus trees of restoring the Merovingian Empire? Why not? Why hasn't somebody put that into this thing? Wouldn't it be cool to have the Merovingian Empire back? Okay, well, most people never heard of it. Most people have no idea what I'm talking about. But hey, let's restore it. I mean, that's as silly as thinking, oh yeah, let's do it. No, let's see. Maybe they're that silly. I'm looking for restore the Kaiser or restore the Tsar. Do we have a restore the Tsar? Stalin Constitution. That's about. Well, I don't know what that means. Maybe that is what happened historically. Just I don't know, but not a constitutionalist. No. Okay, so they're not wacky enough to put in a restore the czar here, because that to me is just in this time frame is wacky. Now maybe I could see a fifth column, a coup, Trotskyites come in, and Trotskyites take over. I could see that. I'm not saying it's likely, but I can see that as a yes. If you actually knew, yes, that's the what was going on before Charlemagne. Charlemagne is post Merovingian Empire. I figured if I used Charlemagnian Empire, too many people would actually know what I was talking about. Get the Tsar counter coup. Well, yeah. See, I just don't buy that even the Soviet army would support anything going back to the Tsars or the Whites of any format in 1936. I just don't see it. Now, I might see it in a post-Barbarossa reorganization of Russia of some sort, maybe at that stage. And I can definitely agree that there could be a anti-Stalin purge, but I'm not seeing, and I don't know if they have it here. Oh, anti-fascist diplomacy, no, anti-capitalist world revolution, yeah. No, because to me, restoring the Tsar at that time period is just ridiculous. And so that's sort of the realm I put some of these things in. And that's why I don't do these things. You know, a higher likelihood, though, Ataturk wouldn't have supported it. Restore the Ottoman Empire, that's slightly more likely than everything else. Well, I know I've been rambling on. I hope it's been entertaining. We're going to end this episode here. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And of course, I really love hearing from you. So please post questions, comments, suggestions. What empires would you like to see restored somewhere in the world? Maybe, I don't know. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.